Thank you everybody for joining us. This is pretty much season 9 of Unraveled Influences show, Unraveled Sessions Live. So I'm going to start with the first question here is, how did poetry become a part of your life?
So I have always found myself writing like in a general sense. Earliest memories, like 8 years old, we had a school assignment where we had to write a short story based off of the nonfiction book we were reading. I was reading an encyclopedia about bugs. And so I wrote like a 10-page story about bugs at 8. And because I've always loved writing, and writing has always given me a place to explore my feelings where like I don't know how to do it up here. Um, the focus on poetry was born around 2018. I got back into writing, but I was focusing on poetry specifically because we had a lot of downtime at the call center job that I had before, and I would utilize my time by writing out poems. I participated in the Write a Poem a Day challenge for April's, because it's National Poetry Month. I haven't been able to do that again. I'd like to get to that place again, but like that was brutal. Not everything I wrote then was good. And not everything that I do have to write is good. Writing is just writing. It's a release.
No, I hear you on that, especially on the release part. Yeah, because I know for me, when I first started writing, I mean, I just wrote because my dad used to write a lot, so it was just like, oh, cool. I don't know what he's doing, but I'm gonna just write, and then it just became a thing. So since you've been writing poetry, how has it helped you? Because I know you talked about the feelings and stuff like that. In what ways and how much has that helped you since?
Honestly, I think that if it wasn't for me getting deep into poetry starting in like 2018, I started performing in 2019. I don't think I'd still be here on this earth. I know that's a little sad to say, but I was going through a lot of tumultuous feelings because of a relationship that I was in that was not healthy. And I was also feeling pressures in my work environment. So all of that accumulated to the mess that I am. And I poured myself into my writing, and it got to a point where like I did have to take a break from writing poetry around when the pandemic hit, because I would trigger panic attacks sometimes when writing out what I was going through, and I wanted to take a break from that and try to like sit with my feelings as the person instead of the page.
Mm. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, is there a difference in your opinion as far as like the feeling in a page and as far as in the feeling as the person? Like, do you think they're two different people? Do you think it's the same person but different seasons? Like, how does that look like for you?
I think it depends on the person for sure, and also like what stage they're going through.
Okay.
I would say the person who I am now is very, very closely intertwined with the page. You know, you're gonna get the same energy from what I write from in comparison to when you meet me and actually talk to me. And I think that the people close to me can attest to that. Um, I'm just a very emotional person, and that shows both in my interactions with people and what I choose to write out on the page.
Okay, I know. I love that. I love that. I remember last year I had an interview with a guy named Robert Charbonneau. He said something very interesting, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. When it comes to writing, right, even though it comes from like inside, but it feels like it's from outside, if that makes sense. As in, like, when I look back at something I write, I'm like, wait, did I really write this? Is this really how I felt? Like, does your writing surprise you sometimes when you look back at it?
Yeah, there are some times where like I will like just spit out in one sitting something that I wrote out. I'll read it back later and I'm like, yo, this is genius. This is gold uncategorized. This is incredible. That didn't come from me.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Like, do you sense a difference in the energy when you're performing the piece rather than writing the piece?
For me, no, because when I was writing out this, like, once I committed to poetry as my medium, and everything that I've written after that was always with an audience in mind. I write for myself, yes, but I also write for anyone who can relate to what I've gone through. And so when I did finally come out to like local open mics and start performing my work, I write it in the same energy and the same emotion that I wrote it initially. And I think that it creates a unique experience for those who are viewing my performance, because I think I can stir some of those feelings in other people.
Okay. And as far as the stirring of the feelings and stuff like that, walk me through that. Like, how does that look like for you? Like, after, okay, you performed your piece, boom, the reactions there. Like, do you feel like, okay, this is an accomplishment for me? This is one of those, like, okay, if I got what I got out of this, in a sense where it has impacted somebody and they remember it, even a bigger plus. Like, how does that look like for you?
I live for people's applause. I mean, I just, I don't know. I don't know how to word it. I feel like am naturally comfortable at a stage performing for others. And so when I get the applause, when I get people coming to me after the performance telling me what they thought about my work, I am filled with so much joy and so much elation. Even if like what I wrote and performed is like heavy, to know that I set out to make an impact and it's showing, like the proof is in the pudding. That's what I aim for. I aim to be authentic, and I hope I'm doing a good job.
No, but that's what's up, though. I think that's all. I think that's a beautiful thing, honestly. Because I've never performed before. I mean, obviously, like you were there when I did the open mic. I just did like a quick piece, just to like, okay, let me get it started. Okay, I'm done, right? I felt like I was just getting it out of the way, just to get it out the way. But it's true what you said. When you really put it into it, it's like people see it, right? Like they hear it, but they see it. And I think that's what's definitely important. Getting out of the comfort zone of yourself, if that makes sense. And I think that's what that open mic taught me. Watching you, watching everybody perform at the open mic in Bayonne was the fact that it taught me to just, you know what, I need to get out of my comfort zone. Because I've always been close, just used to being like, okay, yeah, I'm here. I'm just there just to be there. But when there's an impact that you can leave behind kind of thing, then it makes a bigger difference. So I wanted to, because I know you talked about earlier about the writing and then the 10-page essay about bugs and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask, but what was it about the poetry that attracted you? Was it just one of those situations like one day, okay, I want to write just to write, or did you read a piece, or was it something about poetry that took place that made you want to write a piece of your own? Like, what was that moment like for you?
I think I've always gravitated towards poetry in regards to other mediums, but I did used to write short stories. I think I fell off of writing short stories when, well, two things happened. My mom does not respect boundaries.
I'm
She
so
would,
sorry to hear that.
she would read my journals, which are my private thoughts, and then, use it against me. And it's just like, you were never intended to read any of that. So you taking offense is your fault. And then two, I used to keep a collection of everything I've written on paper. whether it was a short story, whether it was a poem, whether it was letters that I would write to people, because I would used to write handwritten letters to my friends and any loved ones. I would have all of that in like one binder. I had like a notebook full of poetry. And then the ex that I lived with before, we lived with his mom, and she was like cleaning out his room one day and threw out all of it. All of it without talking to me, without ever asking, oh, who does this belong to? She was just like, this is trash. And it's just like, it wasn't. That was my entire life's work that you threw out.
What? Oh my God. You know what it is? It's like my heart hurts for you when I hear something like that. That reminds me of, I know a lot about the Beat Generation because I had interviewed somebody back in 2020 named Tony Chidrilli. He's like a scholar for that in Columbia College in Chicago. And he says something very, oh my God, sorry. Something very interesting how there was Allen Ginsberg and there was another poet named Elise Cowan. So a lot of people don't know about her because unfortunately when she had committed suicide, her parents were traditional Jewish people, so they saw her stuff and it pretty much told the neighbor, yo, throw this shit out. So the only thing that was left of her stuff was when she was in college and her roommate had this one notebook and it was published. All we ever had. So it's like we're never gonna get to see that part of her life. And in that same way, that's kind of how I feel like, damn. So that means we're never going to see, or you'll never get to revisit that part of your life. And it's like, damn, man, like, you know what is too about boundaries? It's interesting because especially like I grew up at a time where like boundaries were not respected either, but that's only because I grew up at a time where our feelings were not allowed and we had to just
relate in that realm as well.
Yeah. And it's like I don't understand. I guess I just never understood why it's like that because I know my parents were 1950s Puerto Ricans and stuff like that, and they were
My
very
mom.
like conservative, strict, but like you're supposed to just do what I tell you and understand that's it. And if you ask questions, it's like you're not listening. It's not, or like why like if you respond to them in to understand, they take it as talking back, and it's like this whole thing, and oh man, that sucks, man. I mean, I'm lucky for me. I didn't have that kind of thing because my parents didn't read a lick of English, so they wouldn't know what that was. But damn, like that. I don't know why that hurt my heart right now hearing that. No, what happened? I'm sorry.
I want to just piggyback off of like everything you've said. Like I grew up with that experience. My mom was born 1951, so she was also raised by her grandparents. So I'm like being raised by somebody with old school morality. Like and that's tough for someone who is leaps and bounds away from her generationally. Like she's like, all right, we shove everything down and we die with it. And I'm like, no, we should talk about it. You should feel the pain. That's where the pain comes.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Oh man, it's so interesting because I feel like even us in life, I think we've come such a long way in that because, like I said, I grew up at a time where, like, especially me being the youngest of three kids, I'm the youngest, so there's my brother who's 6 years older than me, and my sister's 5 years older than me. So there was no bonding relationship there already. So that's already okay. Fuck all that shit. And then there's like my dad, like I said, like he had emotions, but he always like swept underneath the rug. We just never talked about it, and it's like it's interesting though because especially in Hispanic culture, it's like that, and but I feel like because I grew up at a time where awareness was starting to come up, but we weren't allowed to talk about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We were told to shush. Oh, that's not real. That's not real. That's just TV and stuff like that. So I never really understood what depression was until I became an adult. I didn't understand what the birds and the bees was because nobody sat down with us and talked about that and what it does to you after you lose your virginity. Like no one really talked to me about that. So I had to learn all that on my own. I couldn't even talk about it with anybody because, when you're a guy with a bunch of guy friends, it's like Oh yeah. Oh yeah, sure. I gotta act like I know what you're talking about when I don't. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to fit in, but you feel out of place, kind of tips type of situation. So like I was saying before, my heart hurts when I heard that what you just said because it's like, oh man, like I feel like that's a part of my soul I'm never gonna get back, and that's why I hurt.
I struggled with finding the words to like pull together to like go over like how all of that made me feel. I am working on a poetry project to try to work through those feelings because, like you said, like I'm never gonna get that back. I know that I wrote some silly little gems that I just don't actually have memorized, and so I don't have the original source material, and that is a lot. And that's why I switched to just keeping everything on Google Docs.
Me too. I just started converting my poems into Google Docs. It's such a lifesaver because now I can just carry it with me everywhere I go. And it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Thank God for clouds.
Yeah. I I don't like dwelling on like just negatives, or at least the stage that I'm in now. I don't want to just dwell on negatives, but I feel like most of my work, most of my best work, is written from the negative viewpoint.
No, I get that. I get that. And it's only too because I always wonder why that is, even for myself, because, I'm, for the most part, yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm married, I have a child. The last of my family to have like pretty much I have a family pretty much. And it's like, but yet, even when I get inspired, it somehow, like it comes from, we know like our stuff comes from a place of honesty, but there's something about pain and the negative of it that brings the best out of us. Like, would you agree on that?
That pain is essential to the human experience. Um, and whether or not you want to look at it as good or bad doesn't really matter, because like pain is just pain. It's a universal feeling. You don't have to attach negative connotations to pain. You can see it as a opportunity for growth.
Right,
Uh,
right.
just, another life lesson to add to the bank that is your experience.
Amen. Amen to that. And wow. No, that's just very inspiring. So, like, again, everything you've been telling me so far, thank you so much for that. So, we're going to switch gears a little bit to give the people a little example of your book. You just released this it was on the 20th, right? That's when it was released. Talk to me about this. Talk to me about the cover. Why'd you call it She's Jealous of My Purple Sky? Like, where did all that come from?
Okay, so first and foremost, the cover art is not mine. The publisher created this
Okay.
after manuscript. And honestly, I think this cover is so fitting for the title and just also like for the story that this book entails. In regard to the title, I had that title in mind. Okay, so the thing about this collection is I knew I wanted this to be a book that I wanted published once I accumulated like 5 or so poems about the friend that I wrote this about. And I was just like, oh, this is going to be perfect. And the title hit me when we stepped outside of my house. She was going to head to her car in the parking lot, but she stopped to stare at the sunset. And she was like, wow, I don't have any purple sunsets where I live. And I was like, haha, I do. And so that birthed She's Jealous of My Purple Sky.
Wow. No, that's awesome. I love that so much. Wow. No, and I love, and I see what you're saying with again, I have the book too. No, this is so great. I love that. And how accomplished did you feel when you finally completed it? It's published. How accomplished was that?
I'm elated. I'm elated. I didn't think I'd get to, like, it's always been a dream of mine to be like, I want to be published. I want my name to exist after I pass, blah, blah, blah. But to see it, like, to have the product, to have it in my hands is a completely different story. It's a dream come true. It's a literal dream come true. And that is because I put in the work for it. Like, you're not going to come true if you just let them sit and pile up. You know, you got to put in the work. So when I finally came to the idea of like creating the manuscript, which was December of last year, so like very recently, all of this happened very quickly, and that also is very mind-boggling. But December, I sat down with the collection of poems that I had just sitting in my Google Docs, because you can make them as folders. And I was like, okay, how do I want to organize this? And the thing is, I started writing the table of contents for this a while ago. So it was really easy to organize this time around. The concept wouldn't have come about without my friend passing away in May of 2022. Yes, 2022. Sorry, my brain doesn't always work. And
good.
It was the amount of what I wanted to say to her if she was still here. Like, I miss her a lot, and it's not fair that she's not alive to see these accomplishments.
No, it's fine. Oh, no, see, I'm trying not to cry. No, because I've had friends that passed away too, you know, especially on unfortunate circumstances. So I feel for you. So when you say that, it really triggers some stuff in me too, because I had a friend that I was very close with, and it's like we had a little falling out, and it's like unfortunately we were supposed to kind of, there was like we had like a mutual friend that was gonna try to be the middle person to finally reconcile differences, but by the time we were supposed to meet up, we never got to, and that's when I found out she had passed away. So it's kind of one of those, like, I feel you, like that fuck, it's not fair, like how the fuck, like what the fuck, God, you know, like. So I listen, this is a place, safe space, cry, yell, laugh, I don't care, like be your real self. And like I said, I feel you on that. Because it's not fair. It's really not fair that life just happens the way it does like that. And it's like, damn, man. But yeah, no. But go ahead with what you were saying about your friend, because I'm. This is very powerful right now.
She ended up being a bigger inspiration to me than I originally expected or intended. She went from like just a random coworker to a really big crush, a really big crush. It turned into, like, I am realizing in hindsight, it was infatuation rather than you know, true romantic love. Just because, like, I don't think we were ever gonna work romantically. I think we were always meant to just be the best of friends. You know, like, I think it took both of us trying to dive into that realm with each other to realize, like, oh no, we're like rather platonic soulmates, you know. And I am glad I was able to reconnect with her briefly before her passing, because I know that she passed along with us being in good graces and us being friends. Like, I was invited to her funeral because of how close we were as friends. And I'm really grateful for the last few moments that we had via text message, because, like, she didn't live in state, and I don't drive. And also, like, we had came to an agreement to, like, you know, just keep it casual, keep it friendly, keep it like within text messages and stuff. I think what hits hard though is the last, well, there's two text messages. I had texted her the day that she passed, letting her know that I was able to score concert tickets to my favorite band. And like, I didn't hear back from her. I didn't think anything of it. We usually didn't have to respond right away. But then I had seen about a week later, one of our mutuals saying, you know, rest in peace, Tony. And I was just like, what do you mean rest in peace? What? And so I reach out to him and I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What do you mean? And so that's when it was confirmed. I still didn't want to believe it. So I sent her one last text, which was, please tell me this isn't real. This doesn't feel real.
Oh.
It's like part of it wants to like convince myself that like, no, she's not dead. Like she's just venturing around the world the way she's always wanted to. But like, no, I saw it. I saw it. I was there in an open casket.
Damn, man. Wow. I can say this though. I really feel that no matter what happened and no matter what happens now, I know she's looking down like at you right now, and just I know for a fact she's proud of you. I know that for a fact. I mean, I don't know what your beliefs are, but I'm a firm believer of that. Now she's in a place where she can, she's happy and she's enjoying life upstairs. And I really think like right now she's looking at you and just proud of you. I really believe that. And like I said, if I was here, I'd definitely hug you. Just like it's like that. Like I feel you. Like right there. Um, no, that's definitely inspiring. I love the fact that like first of all, thank you for trusting me with that. That's important. That's definitely important. And the thing is now a part of her legacy is in this book, in your poems, and it's like that is what I live for. I live for stories like that because that's important. You know, I don't really open up too much about this, but a couple of weeks ago, long story short, I'm not mentioning names or anything like that, but I've had some people like, put me down. That's why I've been kind of a little quiet on here. And I almost just decided, you know what, like this is too toxic. I was gonna legitimately just cancel everything, call it a day. But then between, you guys, and just another brother named Eddie, him and just a few other people too, has just been like reaching out, hey, what's going on? A little too quiet, okay? And I really didn't want to talk about it, but it was just like pretty much you guys was just pretty much lifting me up, and I feel like between my wife, you guys, like God was using you guys to remind me, hey, look at the people who actually do care. Look at the people who actually like are impacting. You don't even know. You're giving them something that's never been given before, and that's when I realized, you know what? I need to stay for you guys because when I hear stories like what you just told me, I live for that because everybody has a story to be told, and we'd be stupid if we didn't talk about them. Like I said at the open mic, we have to be loud, and we're living at a time where like everybody wants to shush everybody, and nobody wants to really just sit down and just have the conversations. And so thank you for trusting me with that. Thank you for sharing that on here. Again. I live for those moments in the sense where it's like you got to talk about that, and people who support you see the real you and they appreciate you and respect you even more because of that, and we don't see that a lot, so thank you for that. Oh God, so
Do you want?
and it's like I said, it was just what happened.
Did you want me to read a piece?
Yes, please. Yeah, sorry. Oh man, so
Okay.
thank you. So just want to say thank you for just for being you.
I've been getting a lot of messages like that lately, and like, oh, I need these reminders from my found family and my close ones that like I am loved and I am appreciated and I am cherished, and I have to keep going. I have
Yeah.
to keep going, no matter how angry it gets up here and how messy and how utterly final my thoughts try to get, I always try to keep in mind the people that are in my corner, the people who would be devastated if I left this earth too soon.
Wow. No, thank you for being here. And I'll just say this because I know exactly what you're talking about. Because 2013, I almost took my life as well, and it took 2 text messages. Pretty much is how that whole happened. This is before I gave my life to the Lord and everything like that. But first it was my brother saying, "Hey, I'm doing this thing on a Friday. Why don't you come through?" Because he was like a youth pastor at the time. And the second person that, because I was on the roof of my building when this happened, and then the second person that texted me was my best friend, who is my wife. I married her, but at the time we was just friends. And she said, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" "Hey, I'm at this. It's called Taku Taku. That's it's a karaoke place. It doesn't exist anymore. Now it's a Google building. Like I'm like, what the hell?" But anyway, but I'll never forget that because that's what made me step down. Because it's not like there's the roof and that's it. Like this is just the roof, and then there's this little thing, a little barrier. It's like so I was on top of the barrier pretty much, ready to just jump off. And it's like those 2 text messages pretty much is what made me all right. Let me just get my mind off pretty much. But had it not been for those text messages, I don't know what would have happened. So I'll just leave it at that. And like I said, when I hear your story, what you just told me, it's more like thank you for still being here, because I've had people tell me the same thing too. So
Thank
it's
you
like
for still being here. And also thank you for like this opportunity to like converse freely and like just, share our thoughts together.
man,
Before I lose the urge, I'm gonna go ahead and just like randomly pick.
all right. Oh, it's like poetry roulette.
So I'm gonna read A Garden of Words, page 14 for anyone who has the copy of She's Jealous of My Purple Sky. And if you don't have the copy, it's available for purchase on Amazon. The link is in my bio.
Yes. She does have physical copies, so if we can sell them out tonight, that would be great. And when we go live at 8 o'clock, I'll definitely say, "Hey, just by the way, it's brought to you by, get the book and stuff." So yeah.
So, A Garden of Words. I could pick your voice out in a crowd, pick your laugh out even faster. I could be on the phone with you for hours and hear your voice dip with fatigue and hear you get annoyed with the dip. You want me to shut you up so often. Sorry. I said that right. You want me to shut you up so often, but how could you ask me to do that when I could listen to you talk all day? And how could you ask me to do that if I can't shut you up the way I want? You won't ever find me telling you to be quiet or be quieter. Be as loud as you want. Be as fast as you want. Talk as much as your heart desires. And you won't ever find me telling you to talk when you don't want to. I can fill the silence with my rambling if that's what you ask. I can talk endlessly until you fall asleep. You want me to shut you up so often, but how could you ask me to do that when I never want you to shut up? You want me to shut you up so often, so let me feel your soft lips press on mine.
Wow. Wow. Talk to me about this piece. I definitely want to ask you about the third stanza. You won't ever find me telling you to be quiet or quieter. Be as loud as you want. Be as fast as you want. Talk as much as your heart decides. I love that stanza right there. Talk to me about that, because that is, I take that as pretty much just I don't care how long you ramble on. I just enjoy your company. I just want to hear you. I just want us to be together. I just want us to spend some time, however that looks like. To me, that's intimacy to me in my eyes. And I think at the end of the day, it's knowing that no matter what happens, you are always being you. That person's always being them, and you're giving them that comfortable space to be themselves no matter what the outcome is or what the situation is. I love that. Talk to me about that stanza, and then talk to me about the piece, because that really, I love that line so much.
So the third stanza of A Garden of Words came from a few different places. I did want to be a safe space for her. So like I had a huge crush on her. I was like, oh my God, talk forever, please. I want to learn everything I can about you. But a big part of that, especially like in hindsight, is we're both neurodivergent. She didn't know it at the time, but I spotted that shit immediately. And so I, as a neurodivergent who has been told to pipe down, shut up, you're talking too loud, slow down, I didn't want her to feel that attack of like what society usually throws. And I feel like that surprised her because I'm sure she also dealt with a lot of the same comments. So yeah, that's kind of the inspiration for the third stanza.
Wow.
For the poem as a whole, she ended up switching, or she ended up being on a separate department after a busy period of my department was over. And so she ended up on the other side of the call center, which meant that there was a literal wall to, like, splitting us, but I could hear her sometimes. And so I ended up starting the poem from like that because I was like, I miss your laugh.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's so awesome. Wow. Wow. But I know what you're saying about the told, like being told shush and all that stuff. That's very deep what you said too, because I think that's what it was too. When you have that, like when you've experienced something, but you want to make sure I learn from that experience, so that person does not feel like they're attacked. I really love that a lot, actually. That's kind of how I feel about my wife. I feel like my wife allows me to be myself. I feel like if I was probably dating anybody else, I don't think I'd be able to do half the stuff I do even at home. And when I mean I'm weird, I am weird. Like I do weird things. I talk to myself. I'll have a argue with myself. My wife's like, "Wait, what?" But she'll laugh with me though. It's like, "Oh, okay." But you're not judging me for that. My fault. He's judge the shit out of me
Oh, yeah.
with that. And so
My mom would be like, I stopped talking to yourself. And I was like, where do you think I get it from?
that's what. Thank you. Oh my God. Yes. Hallelujah. Yes. Because my dad used to. He's like, "Oh no, I'm gathering my thoughts." I'm like, "You're talking yourself. You're getting mad about something." Now I realize now that he's passed on, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just like my father, but my mom doesn't. I mean, my mom, my wife, my wife's just like, because she does it too. She's like, "Oh, we get it. Okay." I'm like, "Oh, what were you talking about?" Like, let's start talking about what we're talking about. Oh my God. But
Yeah, just verbal processing, what you normally would do in here just needs to be verbalized, and
yeah.
it helps you make decisions you need to make.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. See, but like my parents looked at it like, "Oh, you're
Yeah,
crazy." That's the way
yeah.
my parents. They took me to psychiatric therapy. They tried to put me on medication. My childhood was very blurry because of all that. So I remember some things, but not all things. Unless like if you show me a picture of me when I was a kid, I won't really remember a lot of that stuff. Unless you told me the story, I'm like, okay, maybe I remember that, but not really. And like there's like videos I have, like home videos, but I don't remember. Like I remember like late teens going into my adulthood, but I don't remember like when I was 10.
Me too. I have so many chunks of memory just gone, which I write about in a poem that I plan on reading later. And or maybe right after this tidbit, where it's just like, can I trust anything if I don't have the original source material? Like, what do you mean? Like, people talk about their childhood memories, and I'm like, if it's not trauma, I don't remember shit.
Yeah, yeah, amen. And it's so true with me. Like, I know not a lot of stuff were positive in my life, so it's interesting. But it's like, you ever had that situation where like something will pop up in your head? I'm like, okay, but was that something that really happened? Or was it just something that was the thought in my head and maybe it felt like it's real? Or was it something like, or do I know this because somebody else told it to me?
So I I get what you mean. And I had learned a few things recently. So if I'm having like just random regular memories, your brain doesn't actually keep track of like all of the details. As time goes on, the memory warps, and so it's not exactly the same as it was when it happened. But with PTSD, those traumatic events are not recorded by the part of your brain that records memory. It's recorded by, I'm blanking, but like essentially it brings you back to the moment that caused the trauma, like as if you are living in that moment.
Wow, actually, I didn't even know that, to be honest with you. Because it's funny because me and my wife was having this conversation recently. I said, babe, because I really thought that PTSD was only like, and I'm not trying to be like the army, no, not that. Like, let's say like somebody did something to you, kind of thing, not that you had an event that caused you to react a certain. Like, I never knew it was. I thought it was just more like an action that someone did. That's what I used to think PTSD was. And she's like, no, like there'd be certain verbiage or in a way that it triggers you to behave a certain way because it reminds you of something. That's also what that is too. And I am like, babe, do you think because I feel like, I mean, I was never diagnosed or anything like that, but I feel like I might have that. I just don't know, because I know sometimes, like, let's say, like my friend tells me something, but his verbiage reminds me of how my brother used to be with me when I was a kid. So even though my friend's not attacking me, but it feels like he's attacking me because the I guess the sound trigger of how my friend speaks took me back to that time, and then I get very defensive. Like
Yeah.
the way you're talking to me, it's not like, to me that's normal. That's, oh, okay, it's tender, it's calm, whatever the conversation. But like there's people who are naturally just loud, or they're just naturally aggressive when they talk, and it makes me think like they're attacking me when they're really not, and it takes me back to a time that a person was attacking me. So that's why I didn't know PTSD really could work in that way also until recently. So it's pretty interesting that you bring that up, honestly.
Yeah, that just reminds me of like, if I hear any Hispanic figure yelling in Spanish, I'm transported back.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes, yes. That they'll say,
Somebody don't yell at me.
yeah. There was a saying they used to say a lot too. Wait, do you speak any kind of Spanish or?
Yeah, un poquito.
So there was this thing. So I'll say it in Spanish and I'll say it in English. So they'll say something like, "Oh, si dice la verdad, después dice uno malo." Like, in other words, oh, but if you tell the truth, then you're the bad guy. Like, they always said that shit, and I'm like, every time I hear an old Hispanic say that shit to me, I'm like, okay, are you gaslighting, or is that really how you feel? Because it's like I'm being real with you, and then you get mad that I'm being real with you when you're trying to be real, or in your eyes being real with me, and I'm just like, wait, but if I don't agree with you, all of a sudden now I'm attacked. Like I'm wait, what? Like every old school Hispanic says the same line. Oh, but if you tell the truth, then I'm the one that's bad. I'm like, why do you guys always say that shit? So it's so funny every time I hear that. Like, oh my God.
She'd be like, oh no, you could tell me the truth. I need you to tell me the truth. And then things don't go bad. And then I'm like, okay, here's the truth. And then I'm getting my ass beat. And I'm like, what?
What is going on? But that's what I'm saying. And then my whole thing is, oh, but this is why I can't tell you nothing. Because my father, you couldn't tell him shit. He was very, like, everything was always a reaction for him. And I'm just like, okay, you tell us that you want us to tell you stuff. And then when we tell you, get freaking mad. He's like, oh, but what am I supposed to do? Not get. I'm like, how about be a little more understanding? Like, or if I got into trouble, it was never, oh, what happened? It was always, oh, what did you do? I'm like,
what did you do? Oh my God, same experience. My mom was just like, okay, but you had to do something to provoke that. And I was like, no, I just existed.
Bro, see, oh my God. Yo, because that's so true. It's always that gaslight BS. Like, what do you mean I provoked it? And I did, oh, well, no one's going to do something just to, yes? What do you mean? What? Like, oh my God.
Quick tidbit. Ninth grade, I had choir. We all cycled out, and like one of my friend's boyfriends was being weird and going around biting girls' necks. And I was like, oh, hell no. If I come home with something that looks like a hickey, my mom will kill me. And so he tries to go bite me in the neck, and I'm like, back the fuck off. And then he bites me in the arm, leaves a mark. I have to go to the nurse, and then I report him. It gets back to my mom. I get home. My mom's like, okay, but what did you do? And I was like, I walked out of class.
Yo, that's I never understood that mentality. Even to this day, I'm like, yo, I would never do that to my kid, like legit, because that is crazy to think. What did you do? What do you mean? What did I do? Why do I have to do anything? Why people can't just do something just because? And I look back now in retrospect, if I'm telling my older self, my older parents at the time, I'm like, well, you realize I'm from New York. You realize, in New York, people would take a dump in the middle of the station just because. Like, so what? Did I provoke him to do that too? Like,
I think what it is in hindsight is that, like, that's the way my mom grew up. She was probably told all the time, everything is your fault. And so she just passed that on. And I'm like, but I'm not at fault. I'm literally just exist. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I was a brat. Sometimes I was at fault. Sometimes I provoked it. But most of the time, I didn't do shit. Most of the time, I'm reacting back to what initially happened.
Exactly. And I think that's what it is too. People don't realize, like, it's like a generational thing we pass on and we don't realize we pass on. So even if, let's say, because I feel like a part of me is like, okay, I think my dad understood that, but he displayed a whole different thing because your actions spoke louder than what the hell you said. That's why nowadays I say, don't listen to one of my good friends, Stephanie Lamb. She says something she says, we had a conversation. I say, you know what? And it always stuck with me. Don't listen to what people say. Listen to what people do.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they do is the truth. And what they say sometimes contradicts what they do. And that's still with me to this very day.
I will say, I see us wrapping up soon. We have about 10 minutes left. Would it be okay if I hop into one of my pieces?
Yeah, please. Please. Yes, please.
Now I have to decide.
Yeah.
You know what? Since we're talking about my mom anyway, let's just keep that going. Okay. So this poem is called Conversations with My Mom.
Okay.
When will you realize that I'm not you? Your mistakes are yours and yours alone. Your mistakes belong to your generation, birthed from the way you were raised, the way you were told the world would turn out. Your mistakes were birthed from willful ignorance. If it didn't happen to you, it didn't exist. If it did happen to you, well, it still didn't exist. Your mistakes were raised on pride as you try to raise me. Turn the other cheek if it doesn't concern you. Bottle it inside so you're not a concern. When will you let me make my own mistakes? When will you let me learn from them? You'll have to do this crazy thing called trusting your daughter to make the right decision for herself. And trusting her to still be a good daughter when she makes the wrong decisions. Because she will, just as you have. You've instead turned into an obstacle for the course you insist is mine to travel. The course you've been put through by generations before me. All while keeping your eyes to the ground and your words in your throat. Those words turn to vile, later leaving venomous scars on the mind and heart of your daughter, who learned that silence was a safe haven. You won't drop your ego long enough to give a shit if I closed and locked the door behind me. After all, you taught me well that the skeletons of the past can't touch you if you cement the closet shut. When will you stop filling my head with insecurities and mistrust? When will you be the mother I needed all these years? When will you love me? Because the resentment is mutual. Conversations with my mom, they're non-existent.
Oh man, I gotta let that sink in. You know what's crazy? Everything we've been talking about and just hearing that, I feel like I'm looking at a younger version of myself, I swear, because everything you said, these are words I felt but never knew how to put into paper. I didn't never knew how to put them in words the way you did, because that's exactly what that is. And it's so interesting because my dad's been passed away for like almost 6 years now, and I have a lot of his poetry because my mom gave them to me when she was decluttering and stuff like that. And I read them. I'm like, Dad, you are not that far different. I just wish I had those conversations with him. But it's true. There were non-existent conversations. And there are non-existing conversations because he's dead now. But his poetry is the non-existent conversation because I'm just reading his words. But I feel like when I read his words, I hear his voice saying it and stuff like that. But but to me, that's a non-existent conversation because he's not here in person to talk to me about them. But it's so crazy how the way, oh man, that is, damn. I know, everything you said, I know exactly what that is. That's true because if it didn't happen to me, that means it didn't exist. Like that is so deep and it's so true. And I hate that mentality. Obviously, I think it's not their fault that they're like that. That's just what it was. But the whole, you know, oh, that doesn't exist. So it's like they shrug it off, or
Mm.
oh, just leave it there, kind of thing. Like I think about a closet, like whatever you put there, just leave it alone. You don't open that door again, kind of thing. That's how I looked at that. Wow. Yeah, I really don't have words to describe what you just said, but I will say this: what you said is exactly how I felt growing up. Just never knew how to put that into words. And I think what made it worse between my parents and me is the fact, especially my dad, there was always a language barrier between us because he spoke Spanish, I spoke English. I try to speak, like, I speak crappy, broken Spanish, even though some people understand me. But it's like with me and him, like what I wanted to say did not come out the way it was supposed to because my Spanish sucked. So
Yeah,
that what makes, yeah.
I can understand that. My mom did learn how to speak Spanish, but she learned everything she learned off the streets and everything, like she read and everything. But that's just because like she moved to America rather young, so like kind of have to learn the language if you've got no one else to rely on.
Mm.
After this, I'm gonna send you another poem I wrote, which is called Language Barrier. I think we're just gonna relate a lot. It's a fun time. Well, not fun because like, gosh, but also like it's good to know that I'm not alone in these experiences. Hence why I write and I publish and I perform.
Amen. Amen to that, Magnus. Thank you so much. Thank you for just sharing all that with me, because it does make me feel like, okay, I'm not alone. Like this is like, wow. Like I really feel like I'm looking at a younger version of myself. Like I swear, because this is like exactly what you said is exactly what I grew up with. And the fact that you're at that age, like you can talk about it, and it's like it's so there. With me, it took me years before I could even open up like that. So thank you for just that
Honestly,
realness with.
what made me write this poem, I was in therapy at the time, and she was just like, you should write a letter to your mom. You don't have to send it to her, but you should write a letter to your mom. Just like express everything that she's made you feel. And I was like, perfect. Also, I'm a poet, so bam.
Yeah. So, how did it make you like when you that piece you just read, right? When you read that, like when you finally wrote that piece, was that all in one shot, or was it like did you have to edit a few things, or it just came out naturally? Like walk me through that a little bit, like the process of writing it and when you finished it.
So I wrote out the letter first. The letter was the draft. And then from that, I turned it into the poem. And the poem created itself all in one. I had some edits here and there, but that's like for grammar's and spelling's sake.
Right. Mm. Okay, no, that's wow. I love that. Like it was a letter, then it became the poem, and then this is what we saw today. I love that. I love that. So we are towards the end, Magnus. I just want to say thank you for just, being yourself. Thank you for just being as raw, as uncut, unedited, pretty much as possible. And thank you for trusting this platform for that because it matters. Your story matters, your truth matters, and your voice matters. And this is why I do this. And again, I've never had a place where to share my stuff, but I always wanted to give back somehow. And if this is what I'm called to do, then I'm gonna keep doing it. So I always ask this question: when we're no longer in this life, we're old, we're all dead, and all this other stuff. When people hear your name, Magnus, what do you want to be remembered for? What impact? What do you want it to be?
Emotion.
Mm.
That's it. Like that's summed up. And that's like I had watched this video earlier today that said that generational pain is gonna continue traveling through the family until it reaches the person who's willing to feel it all. And I think that that is my purpose on this earth, is to feel all of that and grow through it and break the cycles. And so I want any work that I leave behind to show that and to show the growth that came from that. And that came from raw emotion.
Mm. Wow. Mm. Wow. 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 That's wow. No, I'm like, I'm like cloud nine right now because this whole interview is just for me. I think this was such a revelation for me. It's not even funny. It's like, wow, okay. Like, okay, Lord, you're taking me back to my life and you're using her to do this. I get it. Okay. Thank you so much for that. I feel like I was living the life right now. Like everything you're saying, I was envisioning you in the situations right there. I just envision, especially the whole thing with your friend with the cubby, and you heard her and you're like laughing, but say, oh, like I could just so see the visual of it in my mind. That's I guess like I said, that's why I love doing what I do, because when you're telling me stories and stuff like that, I like to envision the story as it's being spoken about, and it's that's just how my mind is. My mind is just weird like that. But I love that because again, it matters. And thank you, thank you, thank you. So before we end this live, any last words?
If you got a Waffle House, let me know. I want to go.
Yeah.
Um, but also, for anyone who is a little hesitant to explore poetry as a medium, go for it. Honestly, like it doesn't matter what experience level you have. Throw your words on paper. You'll then be able to read it out loud, read it with friends, figure out the placements for it, but like express your feelings. And poetry is a great way to do it.
Amen. Amen. So everybody, thank you for tuning in for this live. Magnus, this was such a powerful live, especially for me personally. Like I said before, this was definitely one of those, okay, I'm revisiting my childhood, and I feel like God used you to show me a bigger picture of things. Thank you for that, because I don't remember a lot, and you remind me that no matter what happens, this is stuff that needs to be talked about. So thank you so much for that.